Building lives and constructing destinies. This is Coach SB. I'm excited one more time to be with you and be able to share knowledge, to share information. It is when we share with each other that we multiply the results of each other. What I know from my end is limited to only what I know. But if I share it with you and you share yours with me, I multiply the results of what I know. And multiplication of results simply means progress. So if we are going to progress and go somewhere, our results ought to be multiplied. I call this concept in my corporate trainings, I call it synergy. Synergy is the combination of energies. So you bring your energy onto the table, I bring mine, and we are both team members. Then that synergy that is formed from our two various energies, it multiplies productivity, and if productivity multiplies, then profitability will also multiply. So today I'm going to give you a content that is more contextual to corporate setups than religious sector. And my theme or topic today is excuses versus execution. Excuses versus execution. The difference between those who make it, who excel, and those who remain mediocre or average is execution. There are those who will give you multiple reasons as to why they cannot excel, as to why they cannot reach their zenith or their crescendo. But there are those who don't focus on giving reasons why it cannot be done, but they will make it to be done. And that is execution. Execution will cause you to travel your trajectory as a lonely performer, even at work. Why? Because in the dimensions you're operating, in the spaces you are operating, you are always surrounded by people full of excuses. And excuses are an impediment, a limitation, a hindrance to progress and success. So if you are surrounded by people with excuses, it actually decimates, it attenuates, it dissipates, it reduces your energy. So when your energy is low, the quality of your pursuit towards achieving excellence becomes limited as well. So the question is, do you choose excuses or do you choose execution? So execution also must be in harmony, in congruence with intention, with objective, and with purpose. You don't just execute. You execute after knowing the reason why and after knowing the modus operandi or the methodology or the approach you are going to use, and also knowing what is the reason behind the achievement of that which you want to achieve. That is purpose in a nutshell. Execution takes your experience, it takes your analytics, it takes your information, it takes your knowledge to execute. You don't just execute if you are not capacitated. You got to be wired, you got to be capacitated, you got to be engineered, you got to be equipped. When you are equipped, you will easily execute. Now, in execution, you are prone to procure results or outcomes. And those results and outcomes, it's what will speak for you in your absence. People who produce results no longer speak for themselves, but results speak for them or on their behalf. In my Tsonga language, there's an adage, an aphorism that says, Mintiro ya bula bula. Translated into English, it means works speak better language than the mouth. So you can say that you are powerful. If we don't see the works, we don't see the power. The power is not in the utterance, but it is in the work that is employed. So executors are those who focus on the work than the mouth or lip service. Executors don't talk much, but they do much. And those who have excuses, they talk a lot, but they do less. In the corporate setup, in the corporate organization, which one are you? Are you the one who talks a lot and do less? Or are you the one who do more and talks less? Execution segregates you from the rest of the people. It sets you apart. It differentiates you. It makes you unique. You don't smell like the environment you occupy, but you are the one who makes environments to smell like you. When you are an executor, you attract negativity. Negativity in the sense of jealousy, criticism, naysaying. There is no executor in this life that is not spoken about. People will say things that will even shock you, the person they are talking about. You wonder if they are talking about someone else and not you, because people can create psychologically events and moments that surround your life, because they know that once they can expose that picture, that portrait of the events that they created in their minds, there are people who will stop believing in you. There are people who will stop following you. There are people who will stop investing in you. So the intention of naysayers, critics, gossips, haters is to destroy executors, is to bring down executors. But if you are an executor, you don't wake up in the morning without a plan. When you wake up in the morning, you have a blueprint, you have a plan. When you get to the workplace, you know precisely and exactly what is it that you ought to be doing in that workplace. Therefore, any distraction that will be engendered, every distraction that will come about, you will overwhelm it by the plan you left home with. But if you don't have a plan from home, then any distraction at work will overwhelm you. Any distraction at work will cause you to go off on a tangent. So going off on a tangent, it's when you lose your trail of thoughts. You are talking about something else, but then another thought hits your mind and you change direction. You are distracted. Now you start addressing that which you were not addressing in the first place. That is going off on a tangent. Execution is a vehicle towards attainment of excellence. Nobody excels without executing. So the prize to excellence is execution. The prize to greatness is execution. And I did say in the previous episode that excellence is not just an outcome, but excellence is a spirit you are saturated in. If you are a believer like me, you will remember that Daniel was referred to as a man who has the spirit of excellence. And because there was a spirit of excellence in him, he was preferred by the king over other young men. So spirit of excellence will place you in zones, in spheres, in platforms that are not easily accessible to commoners. My goodness. So you must be immersed, you must be saturated in the spirit of excellence. Therefore, your performance will not only be seasonal, but it will be consistent. Your performance will be perennial. Wherever you set your feet, you are going to possess the ground, because you don't excel by reason of where you are, but you excel by reason of who you are. You are an executor, and when you are an executor, you excel wherever you are, because it is not the ground that determines the fruits you produce, but it is the seed you plant in the ground that determines the fruits you will produce. Grounds don't plant seeds, grounds receive. And it is what you are carrying as a seed that will be received by any ground you occupy. And any seed that goes into the ground, it will make the ground to be pregnant. And the ground will produce at a period that matches the speed of your seeding. How fast you plant the seed will determine how fast the ground bets for you. So if you are slow and ponderous in planting the seed, the ground will be slow and ponderous in giving you the fruit. So the reason why we have people occupying ground for decades, but they never see even one fruit, it is because of their ponderousness in seeding to the ground. But when you plant the seed into the ground at a speed that matches the quality of the birthing that the ground must do to you, then you will get your fruits on time. And the fruits that you get will not come at the same number of the seeds you have planted. You plant one seed, you get 1,000 fruits. So you eat more than you plant. If you are wise, you will realize that the most important thing to do in life is to plant. It's not to eat. Because eating is not a problem if you have planted. If you plant, eating is not a problem. But literally, pragmatically, we've got people pursuing eating and neglecting planting. And that is why whatever they eat only serves them for today, fulfills them for today. Tomorrow they have nothing else to eat. But those who are wise and smart, they plant. They may not eat for some time, but they'll be patient with the process. If you're not patient with the process, you'll be a patient of circumstances. You'll be the one to be attended to instead of being the one to be celebrated for what you have produced. Do you want to be attended to, or do you want to be celebrated? If you want to be celebrated, seed into the ground and be patient with the process. The process will produce the product, and the product will determine the value of the seeding. It is not the seeding that tells us the value of the process, but it is the product that tells us how valuable was the seeding. When you are still planting, you don't know how much you are doing. But after you have produced the harvest out of planting, that's when you know the value of the planting. Those who are in business, they know that as you start business, you are planting. It may not even appear to you what you are doing, what magnitude of actions are you taking. You may not understand what you're doing, but wait until harvest. Harvest is a reflection of the value of the seeding. So if you give up in the planting process, you are giving up the harvest. If you want to procure the harvest, be patient with the planting process. Because when you plant, you are almost guaranteed that you'll get the harvest. And when harvest comes, it does not come at the magnitude of the seed you planted. It is always multiplied. And that's why you don't eat alone. You can eat with the whole community, but you planted alone. The community does not want to be a part of the planting process because it's costly, it's painful. But they want to be a part of the harvest. And sometimes your harvest is a motivation to the entire community to also begin planting. How will they know the value of harvest or the value of planting if they don't see the harvest? Maybe you are the one who must show them the harvest, and eventually you will be showing them the value of planting, the value of a seed. In the primitive years, our great-grandparents, they never died of hunger because they were planters and they were harvesters. You don't harvest where you did not plant. You deserve to harvest where you planted. So this is the mindset and attitude of executors in workplace environments. That's why they come early to work. That's why they don't take unnecessary leave. They work harder than everybody else because they understand that that gesture is the seeding process that will produce a harvest. Sometimes executors, please hear this, sometimes executors don't experience the harvest. It is experienced by those that are coming after them. But the credit still goes to those who planted. The credit and the glory doesn't go to eaters. It goes to those who planted. That's why also in business, let's say construction business, do you know who makes the most money? The one who drew up the business plan, the one who signed the contract. He works less and everybody else is employed by him to work more. But who eats more? The one who planted the seed. The ones who are eating from the harvest, they have to share from the harvest. But the one who owns the value chain never lacks. And that's why he has power to hire and power to fire. Because the seed is in his hands. Now, execution helps you to solve problems. Do you know that problems don't go away until you solve them? This is basic 101 knowledge. Problems don't go away until you solve them. So how will you solve problems if you are apathetic? How will you solve problems if you are passive? How will you solve problems if you are impassive? So you ought to be an executor kind of a performer. One who does something in an attempt to resolve the problem that exists. So the problem that exists can exit if you execute. Let me say it again. The problem that exists can exit if you execute. So the power is in the execution. So there's no problem bigger than the solution. The solution is always bigger than the problem. That's why it's difficult to find solution, but it's easy to create problems. It is not the problem that's big. It is the solution that is big. That's why it's difficult to find the big solution to the problem. So the bigger the problem appears to you, you must know that what will make the problem to look its size, which is a smaller size, it's when you find the solution. Okay, let's give it context. In South Africa, we were oppressed. When I say we were oppressed, I'm talking about people of color. We were oppressed for decades. There was the apartheid system, the apartheid regime that segregated people, that discriminated people. If you were black, you did not qualify for certain opportunities. And if you were white, then you qualified for certain opportunities. So there was that hatred because of the skin color. 1990, Nelson Mandela came out of prison. 1994, he became the first black president. First time we were experiencing democracy from the apartheid regime. Now, the problem was the regime. The solution was the democracy. But look what is big today. Is it the solution or the problem? Your answer will be, what seemed to be a solution, it's now bigger than what seemed to be the problem. But previously we thought the problem is bigger than the solution. We thought the solution will be easy than the conundrum, sophistication of the problem. Now we are in the dispensation of the solution, but the solution seems heavier than the problem. And there are those who are like Israelites who say, take us back to slavery, because at least we would enjoy cucumbers and onions there. But here we are in the wilderness. We are busy eating manna. Manna was tasteless. It did not have taste. And their taste buds were used to the salty foods that they were eating in slavery. Now I'm saying to you, manna was not a bad meal. It came with less effort than the cucumber and the onion in slavery. Hear me, please. I'm about to close. Manna came with ease than the cucumber and the onion that they were eating in slavery. But people forget the pain that they endured when they are not tasting what is before them now. If you are not tasting what is before you now, the smartest thing to do is for you to go and buy salt to make it tasty, instead of going back to what tasted before, but it's taking you back to slavery. Don't go back to slavery. Pursue greatness. Pursue milk and honey. It is incumbent upon you to use the resources that you have, to go and buy salt, to give taste to what is currently at your disposal. What am I saying? There are people with certificates, with information, sitting at home without jobs, because information impacted them but did not transform them. What will transform you is the revelation, because revelation is not information, it is personal conviction. I wish you God's speed. I wish you God's favor. I wish you God's strength in all your pursuits in life. And my parting shot is, dreamers never die. Never allow your dream to die, because once your dream dies, you are dead. If you want to live, get your dream to be alive. Until next time, keep winning. God bless you.